Hey Fiends, it's the mad scientist Anthony Bowman here. Before we get into the episode proper, I just wanted to tell y'all that Eric and I recently guested on the Last Book on the Shelf podcast. A longtime friend of the show, Hayden, along with his buddies TJ and John, they invited us on to talk about Mary Shelley's novel, and obviously we can't pass up a chance to talk about Frankenstein. So that's out now wherever you get your podcast. Don't miss it. Take it away, Spooky Piano Man.
The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the sketchy hypnotist that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah, so this is kind of a neat sort of change up for us. We're doing Frankenstein the True Story, Part 1,
Dun, dun, dun.
which is, yeah, it's kind of fun, like, not having the whole story to talk about here.
Well, not yet, but yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, we'll get there next week, but it's kind of interesting just, like, having a cliffhanger episode. We've not done that before. So I noticed, like, I know the version that you watched is a little bit different than the version I watched at the beginning. And so I was like, I have the older DVD, and there's like a weird sort of teaser thing at the beginning. So like there's like a carriage approaching a castle, and like the Polidori character played by James Mason gets out of the carriage, and like he introduces himself to like a man standing there, and then he looks right at the camera and he's like, "Yes, I'm Polidori, but not yet." And then it cuts to James Mason, the actor, not in costume. And he's like walking through modern day England and starts talking about Mary Shelley, and then walks into a graveyard and points out her grave. And then he's like, "So tonight we're going to get into the real story of Frankenstein." And then there's just like almost 5 minutes of clips from the movie. And I was just like, what is the point? I mean, I guess this was, it was something, I guess, for when it aired on TV to like, right, tease people or whatever. But yeah, it was the like, James Mason, the actor bit was pretty funny, but then the clips seemed super unnecessary.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out, because that sounds interesting at the very least.
Yeah.
But we'll get to Polidori.
But then we get like the Red Book, which is I think where yours started, right? And
yeah, it started at the book with the it opens up and like there's this weird like abstract looking flower that turns into like a real cutout of an actual flower, and then moves on. Yeah,
I think it's like supposed to be like a pressed flower that's then like regenerated into life. So obviously Frankenstein stuff.
Regeneration, all that. But yeah, then we get the whole list of all the actors with some fairly big names. I mean, we have David McCallum, who I believe was in, was it NCIS, the one with Mark Harmon, a couple other things. I mean, the guy's not a shabby actor at all.
He's definitely been in a handful of things. And then Jane Seymour.
Right. Something Quinn, the medicine woman.
Yeah, Dr. Quinn.
Dr. Quinn, the medicine woman. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, going back there, then, I don't remember what Nicole Paget has been in, but then, as you said, we have James Mason as Polidori.
Yeah, he's probably like the biggest name, actor from this, but...
Right. And then we have, Leonard Whiting as Frankenstein, and Michael Sarrazin as the creature.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys, I recognized him, but I couldn't quite place him. He's been in quite a few things over the years. A lot of genre stuff, like action-y things, and But yeah, he's been in quite a bit. He just kind of has like a severe face, like he's just good for like, you know, bad guys in action movies and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he is one of those that guy actors, right?
Mm-hmm. So once the credits end, we start. Victor is on a picnic with Elizabeth.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird scene because it's almost like they're giving some backstory, but it's also the only story we've gotten so far.
Yeah. And it's like this diverts from the... It's funny, you know, we were talking about that, like, this came out a couple months after the Dan Curtis one we talked about a few weeks ago, and this one kind of, like, overshadowed that one. It was way more popular and kind of continued to be the one discussed. But this one, despite being called Frankenstein the True Story, like, diverts so much from the book.
Right.
Like, right here, right out of the gate, yeah, they're on this picnic, and then we see, like, William...
He's like, hey, let's go swimming. I'm in this boat in this pond. Let's go swimming, Victor.
And then the canoe flips, and he clearly does not need to be swimming because he can't, and he drowns.
Right. I do like how Victor just runs out there and like, he's drowning. Well, yeah, okay. You could do something about that, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously, you know, in the novel, the creature kills William. So right away, things are very different here.
And this William seems more like what Ernest's age would be in the book.
Yeah, not a
the baby
child.
William. Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like this is like their version of like the mom dying from, you know, from the flu or whatever, because this is like the catalyst for Victor to want to do his experiments.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense because in this version, we don't see Alphonse or Mom at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty much William, Victor, and then Elizabeth's family.
In fact, it almost seems like Victor has been adopted into Elizabeth's family instead of vice versa, but it's kind of hard. Like he says like you're as kind to me as a real father, and I don't know if it's just like, you know, like you might say that to a friend's father, or if it's like, you know, you're my adopted father, and yeah, it doesn't really come up beyond like one brief conversation. Right. But yeah, it's kind of strange.
But also, they changed Elizabeth from Lavenza to Fanshawe.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Do we know? Have we figured that out?
I'm not sure.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, so after he drowns, we pretty much cut to his funeral. And Victor is like pretty upset during the funeral. Like he walks out of the middle of it.
Right, especially when the preacher's going on about God, the Lord giveth and taketh away.
Yeah. Elizabeth follows him out to try to comfort him, and he's like, anybody can create death, anybody can kill someone, but why as humans have we not figured out how to create life yet?
Right, and Liz is like, well, everyone can do that.
Yeah, she was like, we'll do that when we're married.
Yeah. And he's like, no, that's base. That's, you know, animals could do that. And she's like, oh, she's shocked. It's like, well, thank you for comparing us to animals. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's like, life out of life is nothing, but I want to create life out of death.
Right. And she's already like, well, that's kind of sacrilegious. And he's like, hey, you know, if Satan himself would teach me, I'm all on board.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so already this one's got a dark, like, he's got some darkness already within him.
And so he decides that he wants to go back to continue his studies. He's like studying at a hospital. It's almost like a residency kind of thing, as opposed to like the, you know, Ingolstadt University.
Which, this is another thing that threw me off. So Richard Fanshawe, Elizabeth's dad, was like, hey, you're now a full-fledged doctor. What are you going to do now? And then Victor's like, I'm going to go back and study more. Okay. You could have practice.
He's like, I could set you up with a practice. It'd be great. And he's like, you know, thanks. You know, you've been as kind to me as a real father would have been, but you know, I've got to do this. So then, like, it cuts to him like on the road to the hospital, and they come upon like a man who was injured in like some kind of mill or something.
Yeah, I almost thought it was a carriage accident.
Yeah, it could have been. His arm got like crushed or something. So Victor's kind of like doing like a rideshare thing. Like he's in this carriage with some other guy that he's like not, you know, friends with or anything.
Right, and the guy's just like a busybody, like kind of, oh, what are you on about, blah, blah, blah. And then whenever Victor gets the guy in there, he's like, I am very upset that you brought someone else into this carriage.
He's like, I'm in a hurry. And Victor's like, well, I was going to the hospital anyway, so we're going to the same place, so no big deal.
And this guy's about to die, so, you know, I think he takes priority here.
Yeah. So he gets to the hospital, and the nurses kind of like send him to surgery, and there he meets Henry Clerval.
Wait, Dr. Henry Clerval as opposed to his friend Henry Clerval?
Yeah, so it's just like a jumble of like character names and stuff, and like Henry kind of seems to be he's more the like catalyst for the creation than Victor in this story.
Yeah. This version should almost be called Clerval instead of Frankenstein.
Yeah. And so, like, they get the guy on the table, and, Clerval's like, what do you think we need to do with this guy? And Victor's like, obviously this arm needs to be amputated. And he's like...
I love how he's like, you said that. You said that. And it's like, oh, did he get him into a trap? What's he doing? It's kind of obvious what he's doing, but,
Yeah, and so they do the amputation.
And that's a beautiful arm.
Yeah. Henry's definitely like kind of creepy in this.
Yeah, he's really creepy.
But so after the procedure, Victor and Henry kind of talk a little bit. That like Victor's like, I really want to learn. I want to grow. And Clerval's like, the professors here are all stuck in the past. There's like this whole new science that's coming. And I think it could give man power over death. And Victor's like, oh, power over death, you say?
Right, he's on board already. But Clerval's like, everyone here is too afraid to grasp this new power, but not me.
Yeah. So like they're gonna go up to Clerval's room. They're like headed up the stairs, and then he has some sort of like attack, some sort of spell or something.
It almost seems like a heart attack, right? To a degree.
Yeah, he like collapses and kind of falls down the steps, and then he's like, medicine, and so like Victor gets out, a pill and gives it to him, and then he's okay. Like, if it's like a heart attack, like a nitroglycerin pill, maybe that could be it. But when he fell, he dropped this like suitcase that fell open, and inside is the amputated arm.
He was smuggling an arm in there.
Yeah, and so he's like, well, you got me.
Yeah, jig's up on this, so...
he's like, I want to use it for experiments. And Victor's like, okay. So then it cuts to like later on, and Victor enters this church and sees that Clerval's sitting like in a pew ahead of him. And he's like, I haven't, you've been hidden away for weeks. And I've been looking for you because all the professors, like you said, they're all scared. They're all obsessed with their faith. They, they're not pushing things forward the way that I want. And Clerval's like, their faith is, it kind of holds them back in a lot of ways. But, I believe in resurrection as well because I've seen it.
Right. He knows how to raise the dead.
Yeah. And of course, that definitely intrigues Victor. And he's like, all right, you got to show me what you're doing because this is why I'm here.
And oh my gosh, he takes them to a literal haunted mansion that he bought. Literally explicitly says, I got it dirt cheap because it's haunted. Okay, cool. We know where this is going. All right.
Yeah, and so then we get to see Clerval's lab that is the Frankenstein lab we're used to seeing. Like it's, all kinds of weird contraptions. And in fact, he pulls out this strange sort of glass box. And he hands Victor a dead beetle and is like, this is dead, right? And Victor's like, yeah, it's definitely just a dead beetle.
By the way, can we mention, I do love the fact that before a lot of the Frankenstein / mad scientists in these movies, they're like magicians, right? They want you to verify that the thing is dead before they do anything with it. They're like, please verify that this body is in fact dead before I resurrect it. Of course, yeah.
Look inside the box.
Right.
There's no false panels.
Yeah. In this case, there's a lot of diodes, but we're good.
So they put the beetle in the glass case and, revive it, basically. Yeah,
they run generic electricity through it, and it comes to life.
Yeah, and so Clerval says that, so he's using electricity, but it's not lightning electricity. It's some sort of power generated by the sun.
Yeah, well, that his old professor, Polidori, presumably John Polidori, the guy who was actually in the cabin with Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, everyone else. What's the husband's name? Percy Shelley? Percy, yeah.
Yeah, for some unknown reason, instead of using Professor Waldman or Krempa that we're used to seeing, they just used Polidori, the guy who wrote that long narrative poem about a vampire while they were on this trip.
Right. Maybe he's the vampire. Dun dun dun. He was the vampire the entire time. Yeah.
But yeah, so he, like, Polidori's not into this whole, like, he doesn't believe that this sun energy that he's using is good or safe or whatever.
Well, he doesn't like electricity anyway, because anytime there's a storm, he hides in his closet. That's a weird detail, but okay, we'll go with it.
And the one nice touch about this whole, like, the sun thing is, as opposed to, like, lightning that comes from, like, storms and rain and everything, this really brings in the whole, like, Prometheus, Frankenstein, the modern Prometheus. So, like, Clerval is bringing down fire from the gods, from the sun, and using it to create life.
But listen, this is the most green version of Frankenstein we've ever seen. Sorry, I'm referring to the solar panels. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean,
Yeah.
metaphorically, Boris Karloff was absolutely the greenest Frankenstein monster that we've ever seen, but,
Yeah, this...
environmentally friendly, how about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Clerval, like, he shows that it's like you said, there's, like, solar panels, and then there's, like, all of these mirrors and lenses that kind of, like, refract and, like, expand on the energy, and that's his whole plan for creating life, is using this elaborate array.
Right. It almost looks like the Archimedes death laser.
Yeah.
Or death ray.
He also, while they're up there, shows him the arm, which is in this, like, big fish tank, because we got to have a big fish tank full of, like, weird liquid.
This is the floppiest arm I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's just, like, wet rubber that's just, like, hanging. And then, like, all of a sudden it comes to life, and it's, like, a real arm that's just off screen, like,
crawling along.
Somebody, somebody's off screen just holding their arm up, and it, like, grabs Victor. Just kind of a silly gag, but, you gotta love it.
Yeah, it's fun.
At that point, so then we cut away to Elizabeth, who is talking to her mother. They're both kind of concerned that, they haven't heard much from Victor lately. They're afraid something might be coming between them and that the engagement might be off. And Elizabeth's like, well, I don't really want to pressure him, because I feel like that's only going to, cause more problems. I'll be bold when the time comes.
Yeah. So the next day, Liz arrives at...
Right? I thought the same thing.
I guess she just had to think about it for overnight.
I guess the time came. It was the next day. So, yeah, she shows up and she wants to see what's going on. And Victor is, like, happy to see her. This isn't, like, the usual, like, cranky Victor that's like, I'm busy, I've got my stuff. But instead, we've got Clerval doing that. He's not happy that Elizabeth's there.
No.
Interrupting everything.
He wants Victor all to himself. He doesn't want to share.
He's like, I'll give you to the room, and he, like, leaves. Victor's all excited about all the progress, and he's like, I really want to show you what we're up to. And she's like, if I'm going to be part of your life, I want to know what you're doing. And he's like, all right, come back tonight, and I will show you something that, that will amaze you. You just won't believe what you're going to see.
Yeah, she sees, well, first she does see this, like, butterfly that she really likes in Henry's collection.
Yeah, he's got a lot of, like, insect, with the beetle and stuff, he's got a lot of insects, like, taxidermied, pinned to boards and stuff.
Yeah.
That will come back right away, because, then we just cut to that night. Yeah, and Victor he didn't even show her he just does it before she gets there. The butterfly is now alive, so we see, it's that same, yellow butterfly, and there's a space missing on the the panel on the wall where it was.
Conspicuously with all just this little white space amidst all these other things, yeah.
Yeah, but Elizabeth is not excited about that. It really freaks her out, and, like, before they can really get into it, Clerval arrives, and he's also not happy about this.
Well, damn it, you resurrected one of my most favorite dead butterflies. I enjoyed it because it was dead.
Yeah. No. And you showed it to her, and she should not be in the middle of this. I don't want her involved. Yep. So they kind of, like, go into the other room to argue, and while they're out of the room,
we get a flappy butterfly. Not a flappy bat, flappy butterfly.
But not for long, because Elizabeth just smashes it with a book.
Yep.
She's like, it's almost like Pet Cemetery or something. Like, she's going to convince that this butterfly is going to, like, turn evil, so she's got to kill it.
Well, to a degree, it almost menaces her. Like, it comes at her for a little bit, but then it's like, this is a butterfly. What's it going to do?
Yeah. So then she just runs out, and then, Victor and Clerval come back in the room, see that she's gone, see the smashed butterfly, and Victor takes off after her.
Right?
Yeah, so he just, like, catches up to her pretty quick, like, out in the street, and she's just like, this is evil, I can't, I don't want you to do this, you need to choose me or your work.
So, of course, you know what Victor's going to choose, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, it's like no question. He's just like, I got to do this work. It's important. And so that's like the last we see of Elizabeth for a while. Like, he's dedicated to this work. So then the landlady shows up and, tells Victor and Henry that there was an accident at a quarry.
Well, can we take a step back, though? Like, as Liz is walking out, like, this lady runs past and she's like, have you heard the good news? And I'm like, are we talking about Jesus or are we talking about something else? And no, the good news is that, yeah, there was an accident at the quarry. I guess. I don't know, because she seems sad after she tells Frank or Victor about it.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, there were 7 dead bodies.
Maybe 8.
Yeah, and they're like, were they men or women? They're all men. And they're like, interesting. And they're like, how bad a shape are they in? She's like, I don't know. You'd have to go look. And they're like, well, I guess that's what we're going to go do then.
So they go body shopping.
Like, for real. Like,
right.
The stable is being used as a makeshift morgue. There's just a bunch of bodies laid out. And they literally go and they're like, well, that guy has some good arms. And he's got, like, this torso looks in good shape. Yeah. And so, yeah, they, like, write down everybody so that they can, like, go back and dig them up later.
I mean, I love it. They're like, yeah, this Goddard guy, like, he's got 2 good legs. One of his arms is messed up. That's a shame. But Lewis, he's got 2 good arms. We got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. Well, fair enough.
Yeah, and then, so on their way home from there, they run into Dr. Polidori.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he's real ominous. Like, he kind of knows they're up to no good. And he's like, I'm going to be watching you.
Well, he is also up to no good. Henry mentions to Victor that Polidori tried to hypnotize him, but it just didn't work because Henry's so smart.
Yeah, he's just like, he was impossible to work with. He was like an old colleague of mine. We don't want anything to do with him, though.
Yeah, obstinate and half crazy, I believe is how he describes him.
Cut to later on that night, and Victor and Henry are robbing graves.
Now this is interesting because Clerval is like, give me a shovel, let me help, and Victor's like, nope, you're gonna have a heart attack probably if you help, so I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Of course Henry's like, well, speed it up because I don't want to get arrested.
Yeah. Then it's like later on they're already just putting the body together. It's they're not taking their time at all. And while they're working on it, Henry kind of continues to complain about Polidori. And says like, he's so ignorant, one day all the world will know my name. Which is funny because this movie is called Frankenstein.
Not
the
Clerval.
True story. Yeah. So then like Victor goes home for the night. They kind of reach the stopping point or whatever, and we get this scene of like Henry like standing in front of, or he's like holding this like really warped funhouse mirror that makes his face look really crazy. And he's like practicing the speech that he's gonna give whenever he gets to finally reveal his great recreated life and all that
to the king and the queen and all Parliament.
Yeah, but then he hears like a knocking and he thinks like maybe somebody's at the door.
Well,
he walks over.
It's the cabinet.
Yep, and it's the arm. It has escaped and is like crawled out of his fish tank.
Dun dun dun. But there's something weird about that arm.
Yeah, it's starting to look a little monstrous and like I don't know exactly. It just doesn't quite look as like healthy and human as it did earlier.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's going back to caveman.
Yeah, but Henry ends up having another attack and falls and like ends up dropping his meds and can't reach them, and so he just like dies there on the floor next to his meds.
Well, I mean, what do you expect when you have just a hole in the middle of your room? And you
oh yeah, I forgot the pills like roll.
Right. It's like, well, I can't get those, and I died.
Yep. Yep. And so then it's the next morning. Victor arrives and finds him like that, and they were getting ready to like begin the process.
Well, the good news is now they don't have to use a peasant's brain because Henry's brain is freshly available.
Yeah, and so Victor is like, this will be the way that I can kind of honor you and carry you on, and yeah, like you said, it's going to be a better, smarter brain than just some quarry worker. So he begins working on the revival, gets everything arranged, and gets all the lenses set up the way they need to go.
Well, he does find Henry's last note that the process is R. And he's like, oh, that means ready. The process is ready. Not that it's rejecting or being rejected.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a silly little gag, but it works. But yeah, so he gets all the lenses turned the right way and starts the revival process. And you see like all this liquid boiling, and there's machines that are pumping. And like you've got like a what are those things called? Like it's got like a chest compressor, like
an iron lung almost.
Yeah, and like there's like a thing on his chest that's like pumping that like almost it's like breathing or pumping his heart or something. And at some point,
defibrillator.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
And there's a point in the process where like clouds cross over the sun and everything just stops.
Right.
So Victor's like manually pumping the bellows, but then the sun comes back out and everything kind of goes back to normal. And then there's suddenly just like a huge explosion, a big fireball, like glass breaks everywhere.
Everything explodes at this point, yeah.
There's like one last like bright blue beam that shoots out and hits the creature, and the creature like takes its first breath.
Pretty cool.
And then yeah, and so at that time, Victor gets knocked down by the explosion. So it's kind of a weird reverse because the creature gets up and walks over to Victor, who's laying down. And usually you've got the doctor approaching the laying creature.
Well, and by the way, Victor's wearing these really cool goggles that I would also like one day. Like it has like a leather strap. As it had been. But so the creature comes over and it sticks its hands out like maybe it's going to choke Victor. But instead it gingerly removes his goggles and stares in his eyes.
Yeah, and like Victor removes all the creature's bandages, and they look at each other, and it's like in that soft like romance lighting.
Yeah, this is the gayest Frankenstein.
That's exactly what I wrote.
That's literally what I wrote too.
Like, so I mean, already we had like Victor, who's like, I'd rather spend my time with Henry than you, Elizabeth. Right. So there's already some undertones of that, but like from here on, like Victor's relationship with the creature is just a romance. It is, it's super gay. Like, yeah, if you're looking for like, you don't have to like dig into like queer reading subtext for this. It's right on the surface.
It's text, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, he literally looks into his eyes and goes, "You are my Adam. You are my perfect man." Okay, well,
you are beautiful.
Yes, you are beautiful.
And the creature says his first word, which is beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Which is interesting because this creature knows how to speak immediately.
Yeah, he learns much quicker than most of the creatures we've seen.
Right.
And in fact, Victor's like, you've had there's been quite an ordeal. You should lay down to rest. And so the creature, who's in like a little pair of underwear and like maybe whiteys. 2 little bandages across his chest, he goes to lay down, and Victor tucks him in with a little blanket.
Right. And then we have Henry's funeral.
Yeah. There, Polidori, confronts Victor and gets really, he's really ominous. He's like, it's a good thing the sun's out today. I'd hate for it to not be nice and sunny for this funeral.
If it were rainy, that would be really depressing.
Yeah. So, he's definitely implying that he knows about, Clairville's whole, sunshine thing. He knows that Victor's up to something.
Yeah, he has an idea at least, for sure.
Yeah. And so, then we get back to Victor at the lab. He takes the creature and takes him to his apartment. And
by the way,
they run in.
He buys the creature a duster, but no other clothes.
Yeah, not for now. There will be.
Yeah, no shoes, just duster.
Yeah, that's just, I guess, to just get him back to his apartment quickly.
I guess.
So they run in, he runs into the landlady, and he's like, "This is my friend who
They're
will be staying
roommates
with me for a while." Yeah. Yep. It's definitely like one of those kind of, we don't talk about it. So he's just my friend from out of town, and he's just going to stay with me until he gets on his feet.
He doesn't speak English. Don't talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's like, okay, that's fine. And then they get upstairs, and we get this really nice sort of reversal because the creature sees himself in the mirror, and he's like, yeah, I look pretty good.
Right, yeah. He's very confident.
Yeah, because in this case we haven't explicitly mentioned, but like he does. Like the creature is just a very handsome man. Like he's not the scarred and stitched up, monster that we're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the mirror, I believe he even points kind of to Victor, kind of to himself, and says, "Beautiful," one more time.
Yeah. And so then the landlady brings up some food, and Victor and the creature sit down to a nice dinner together. And like Victor's showing him how to eat with a knife and fork, and he's learning very quickly. He just everything Victor does, he repeats, and does everything. Uses the napkin to wipe his mouth, and it's all.
They drink some brown liquid that suspiciously looks like the acid we'll talk about in a moment, but I think they just use that one bottle, that one decanter for everything.
And then we see Victor kind of teaching him some more words, and he like speaks, and you can tell that he understands what Victor's saying, that he's not just repeating words. And Victor's so excited, he gives him a big hug.
Yeah, big hug.
Yeah.
But we also have a little game where they're like, he's like, hey, bring me some books. Bring me 2 books specifically. And the monster, of course, or the creature, runs over, grabs 2 books. He already knows how to count.
He knows the 2 books, and then he's like, bring me a red book. And he goes to get another book, and Victor
Yeah, he hides the one book on the creature.
Yeah, the creature comes back and is like, huh? There was another book here. And he looks all confused, and then he's like, oh, you rascal, you hit it.
Yeah. They have a good little cheeky laugh about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's genuinely really sweet. Like their relationship is what we want for the creature. Like he has somebody who's caring for him, teaching him, helping him develop as a person. Yeah. This is very beautiful. And then after that, we see Victor watching the creature sleep, which is also, that's just such a new relationship thing.
And he's literally
so peaceful when you're sleeping.
He's like he writes down in his journal, he's like a baby. But he needs a lot of sleep because he's a growing boy, and but he also has a lot of nightmares. Not only that, I mean, everything's perfect about him except he's 25 degrees cooler than most humans. That's 71 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know that he should have a healthy pallor at that point. Shouldn't he be blue?
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
So then we see later on, Victor comes home. He's been out somewhere, and he doesn't see the creature. Where could he be? And he pops up from behind him and gives him a big hug and twirls him around.
Yeah. Remember the subtext? It's text. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason that Victor was out was he was picking up a gift for the creature, which is a really fancy, it's a nice bespoke suit.
Mm-hmm. They're going to the opera for their date.
Yeah. And he's like, you shall be the greatest dandy in town. Mm-hmm. And the creature again sees himself in the mirror, all dolled up in his new suit, and again says, beautiful.
Aw, that's adorable.
Yeah. So they go to the opera together. At some point, they meet this drunken Countess
Duval.
She has the worst accent.
What accent? She didn't decide on one because she goes between French, British, and maybe Scottish.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah,
and she's kind of trying to flirt with both Victor and the creature, and they are clearly not receptive.
Yeah, I mean, she clearly, she's still she's a little bit older, so she's not out of her prime exactly, but she also tries to entice them with her 30,000 francs, and they're like, nah, we're good. We're together. But
the creature does speak really fluent French to her a little bit, even though Victor's he doesn't speak any English or French,
or any European language, and then he pops off with the French.
Yeah. We also see Polidori. He's also at the opera from across the crowded lobby or whatever. He kind of gives him the stink eye. He's oh yeah, I know what's going on.
No lines, just menace.
So then, they're back at home later, and Victor's like, I'm so proud of you. You did so well. You're so well spoken. And, I'm so glad my brother didn't die in vain. Mm-hmm. He led me to you, and you are going to teach us all how to live better.
Yep, you're going to bring me joy, happiness, and the music of the divine, just like Figaro.
Yeah. So then we see him watching the creature sleep again. So he's just kind of watching him, like, taking some notes or whatever, and then he walks away, and then the camera is like, hey, Victor didn't notice something, audience, let me show you real carefully.
Right.
And zooms in, and he's got some, like, weird growths kind of appearing behind his ear.
Yeah, kind of like buboes, if you know what those are.
Yeah. And so then the next morning, Victor is, like, packing up a trunk. He's putting, like, some books away, and he hears a sound, and then that's when he goes over, and that pesky arm has gotten out of the cabinet again.
What's it up to now? That pesky arm.
Now it looks way more monstrous than it did when Clerval saw it. Mm-hmm. It's definitely just like a caveman arm at this point. It's all kind of dark and got a little bit like hair growing on it. It's just lumpy. It's just not a smooth, normal human arm.
Well, Victor has a cure for that. That's that bottle of acid that or whiskey or whatever. He decides he's just gonna dump a little bit of that on the arm,
and we get a really cool like kind of gore effect as it melts away, and you see the bones and everything. Like they really put some effort into making this look cool.
Yeah, I mean the way it dissolves, you're seeing it in real time, and I'm like, I kind of want to know how they did that. That was really cool. I don't know if it was like a like actual acid on a latex arm. But I don't know how it wouldn't get to the bone underneath. I don't know. I really liked it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it looked good. Mm-hmm. Then the creature shows up, and he's like, oh, you found your way over to the lab on your own.
You're such a smart boy.
Yeah. And he's like, is something the matter? Let me take a look at you.
Right.
And then he kind of, he looks over the creature's hands kind of very lovingly, the way he, like, caresses them.
Right.
And the creature, like, kind of looks back at Victor's hands. They both are just kind of, like, feeling each other's hands, and they're just holding hands, basically.
Exactly.
And in fact, then they just go for a walk in the park together.
Yeah. They dress up in their dandy suits, and yeah, they have a nice day in the park. But while they're doing that, Dr. Polidori is visiting their home.
Yeah, and he asks he wants to rent a room, is what he tells the landlady. She's like, sorry, I've just got the one, and it's occupied. And he's like, well, I don't need it for a while. Can I just take a look at it for when it's open later? And she's like, no, I don't think Victor would like that.
Well, Dr. Polidori doesn't take no for an answer, so he just whips out his handy-dandy hypnotizing mirror and flashes, I'm assuming, Miss Blair.
Yeah, and it's like these are not the droids you're looking for kind of thing. Like, he instantly just hypnotizes her and is like, you're going to show me the room. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll show you the room.
Right.
So they go upstairs, and then we cut away to the park, and there's like a little girl approaching Victor and the creature. There's definitely some like Maria vibes here.
Well, not only that, but a little bit of stranger. This kid should have stranger danger.
Yeah. But the creature's like, he's like excited to see the little girl just the way Karloff's creature was in the original. He smiles, he picks her up, he's like all happy.
But when he does so...
Yeah, Victor finally sees the growths behind his ears, and he's like, uh-oh, that's not good. And he thinks back to the monstrous arm, something's going on here. He's like, set her down, we've got to go. He kind of leads the creature away, and we cut back to Polidori inspecting the room and seeing all of the science equipment, and he's like, those fools are still playing with electricity.
Right. His fear of electricity, it'll get him one day, I'm sure.
And so yeah, he's like, okay, I've seen enough. He goes back downstairs with the landlady and unhypnotizes her and then leaves.
By the way, it's just like flipping a switch. He's just like, and you're done being hypnotized. And she's like, I'm done being hypnotized. What were we talking about? I'll let you know about the rooms whenever it comes open, though.
Yeah. We cut to Victor taking notes again, and he mentions, it's like voiceover, and he mentions that this is 3 weeks later, and in that time he has confined the creature for observation.
Right. Its mandibles and occipital bone is like they're increasing in size.
Yeah. So whatever happened to the arm is also happening to the creature. He continues to slowly change, particularly while he's asleep, and especially when he is having nightmares. So there's definitely, like, that feels a little bit supernatural in a way, or something. Like there's like some kind of like non-scientific something is happening that's causing the creature to slowly Mr. Hyde, basically.
Right. Or maybe while it's sleeping, it's having some growth spurts. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Victor doesn't like this, and he doesn't want his beautiful creature seeing that he's not so beautiful no more. So he goes on a little bit of a bender and breaks the mirrors.
Yeah. He smashes like the big full-length one that they've been using throughout. And the creature, of course, hears this and like walks out and, sees that Victor's upset. And he kind of like comforts him and
grabs his face, like he caresses his face lovingly
and like wipes his tears away. Like this is very intimate stuff here. And the creature, he's not like he's slightly more monstrous at this point. He's not like drastically hideous, but like you can tell his his brow is getting a little bit more pronounced. Like he's getting
got a solid
bit more like
brick head basically at this point.
Oh yeah. Then the landlady kind of is talking to Victor, and she's like, "I want to help with your sick friend's care." And Victor's like, no, have you forgotten? I'm a medical doctor. Like, I've got this under control. I don't need a landlady to help me deal with a sick person.
Well, she's like, I nurse my children, my brood, I think she even calls them, to health from chickenpox, measles, mumps, all the things. And he's like, nope, I'm a doctor. This is infectious disease. Be gone.
So he goes back and is talking to the creature, and the creature wants to see Figaro again. He keeps, just saying Figaro, and Victor's like, no, sit and eat. And he's like, Figaro. And he's like, sit down, damn you.
Yeah, and just yell, like, as an abusive boyfriend, just yells at the creature.
Yeah, and, like, it hurts him. Like, he's confused. Like, you've never spoken to me like that before. I don't know what I did. But and so he's... Yeah, he sits down, and then he, like, repeats it at Victor, like, sit down, damn you. I think Victor kind of, like, breaks a little bit there, like, oh, no, I shouldn't be doing, he doesn't know what's going on. I shouldn't be treating him this way.
Right. Well, that doesn't hold for too long, but...
Yeah. So, in fact, like, he goes, like, the creature gets up and goes and gets some more books and brings them to Victor, like, either to read or to play their little fun book game.
Yeah, he's trying to brighten up Victor's spirits, and Victor is not having it.
Yeah. And then we see, like, later on, again, the creature's sleeping, and Victor's watching. He watches for a little bit, and then he leaves, and then it turns out the creature was not actually asleep. He was yeah. He was faking. So once Victor's gone, the creature gets up, he gets dressed up in his suit.
Yes, his coattails and cape. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very like the young Frankenstein costume. Like, but yeah, so he's like, I'm gonna go see Figaro.
Yeah, Dad won't take me. I'm going by myself.
Yeah.
But however, the landlady, Miss Blair, decides Victor's gone. This is my chance to see what's going on in there.
So she sneaks in, and the creature's there, and she sees this kind of monstrous face creature.
Well, he hears her knocking or coming up the stairs, and he's like, Victor's coming back. It's time to play my game. So yeah, as she enters, she walks down the halls. No one's there. She's like, nobody's here. And he just jumps out of nowhere, goes, Figaro! And she freaks out and basically passes out at that point.
Yeah, and it's really... So yeah, she screams and kind of like collapses, and I was like, is she dead or did she faint? And that becomes kind of confusing as it goes, because like we'll get to it. But so yeah, she just kind of collapses. And
she had a heart attack.
Yeah. And like it cuts away to Victor. He is at the church again, and he wants to speak to the priest. Then we cut back to the creature, and he's sitting next to the landlady, just collapsed there. And he's like, Figaro?
Right. Just caressing her hand too, by the way. And she's like mumbling maybe, but maybe not. Like she's in some weird half-dead state at this point of shock. It's kind of weird. I don't know. And
then we cut back to Victor again, and he, while we've been cut away, he's told the priest everything, and the priest is like, I think you need to see a doctor.
Yeah, can we talk about this was a low-key Pagliacci joke? Right?
That's
right. He's
yeah, like, you're not wrong.
It's like the depressed doctor comes to see the priest, and he's like, "Listen, I've made this awful monster," and the priest is like, "Hey, buddy, you sound a little crazy. You need to go see a doctor." And then Frankenstein, the doctor says, "I am a doctor." Ba-bum bum.
So the priest is like, well, I mean, I don't know, doctors can also, go insane. Like, doctors can also lose their grip on reality. But somehow he's like, okay, well, I guess if you're a doctor, then you're telling the truth. Yeah. In which case, God help you because you've created an abomination.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations, you've just defied God.
Yeah, and so, Victor heads home, and when he gets there, all the doors are open, and sees the landlady laying there, and she's kind of starting to wake up. And so he kind of kneels down next to her, and she's like, Figaro.
There's a lot of black comedy in this, is what we're saying. But yeah, then she just presumably dies.
Yeah, so like I don't know what happened that she was only fainted and now is suddenly dead, but thankfully she, mustered up enough energy to give Victor the clue he needed.
Yeah, because once you say Figaro, he's like, damn it.
Yeah, he's like, oh shit, I know what's going on. So he runs out and manages to catch up to the creature before he gets to the opera. And, the creature's like, but Figaro, we're almost there. Let's go see Figaro.
Well, not only that, but this is the first time we see the creature in, ominous lighting. He doesn't look necessarily... He looks less than human in this one.
Yeah, he's either it's the lighting or else he's even, expanded further from when we saw him earlier after the mirror smashing. But, he's definitely looks more like the Frankenstein that we come to expect at this point.
Yeah.
Victor's like, no, we cannot go see Figaro. And he takes the creature back inside and says, look, she's dead. You did that. The creature's kind of shocked, he didn't mean to kill her. I mean,
it's like a child, he didn't mean to do anything. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, and so then we get another scene of Victor writing in his journal, and this feels like, if this has been this sort of gay romance, this is where the things are kind of falling apart in their relationship. He says something about I feel imprisoned by this creature that I've made. I'm stuck here, I can't go anywhere, and I don't want to be part of this anymore.
Yeah, they're at Henry's haunted mansion at this point. So but Victor takes a look and he's like, I know the one way to get out of this, and that's that decanter with that brown ass liquid in there. That's going to fix all of our problems. Maybe I'll pour it on myself and the monster or the creature, and then it'll all be fine because we'll be gone. But he decides not to do that.
And instead, it cuts to the creature waking up, and he sees that Victor is asleep, and he kind of walks over to him, and the creature, he's kind of been kept in the dark about the way things are falling apart. He hasn't seen himself in a mirror. He doesn't realize things have changed. He knows Victor has changed, but he doesn't really know why. Right. And so he kind of approaches Victor and kind of lovingly pushes hair back for his hair's falling in front of his eyes. He kind of pushes it back, and then it feels like something clicks because suddenly he's like, "Oh, I need to find a mirror."
Right. He starts touching his own face a little bit, and he's like, "Hey, I'm different now. Something's different about me."
And he keeps finding shattered bits of mirror that he can't see anything in. But finally he does find this little square that is not cracked, and he sees himself and just starts crying and screaming.
Not beautiful no more.
Yeah, this, we've seen so many versions of this where the creature sees that he's not beautiful, but this, because he once was, the impact here is obviously a lot harder. He's just crushed that something has changed, and now he understands why Victor has started to treat him differently and won't let him go to the opera. Everything just clicks into place.
And of course, after he's sad for a moment, he decides to take the Victor route and decides he's going to end it. And how should he end it? But by grabbing a shard of glass and stabbing himself in the heart.
Yeah.
Except that didn't work the way he planned it.
Yeah, he's fine. He's just bleeding, but does not seem to be, slowed down at all. And Victor kind of wakes up at this point, is awake from the screaming and everything. And the creature, they kind of look at each other, and the creature runs outside. And there's a big kind of field that leads to a cliffside.
Yeah, it's definitely the cliffs of Dover.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the nice white cliff faces and stuff. But so the creature's kind of running towards the cliff, and Victor's like, stop. And he does, and kind of turns back and is like, okay, you stopped me. Now you've got to tell me something to convince me that my life is worth continuing.
Well, Victor doesn't do that.
Yeah, Victor's got nothing. So they just stare at each other for a minute, and the creature turns back and heads back to the cliff. Yep. Jumps off and
turns into a dummy. Into the ocean. It turns into a dummy halfway through. I really actually was like, is that a dummy that's moving around pretty good? But yeah, I had to stop and be like, okay, yep, gotcha.
Yeah, it is a dummy, but it's definitely one of the better dummies going off a cliff that we've seen. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, they just start flopping in an inhuman way. This one only bends at the places it's supposed to and the directions it's supposed to. Yeah. So it's a higher quality dummy, but it's still definitely a dummy.
I mean, they're not going to throw a real person off, but still, you could drop it from about 20 feet up. It'll be fine.
And, of course, Victor, looks on, watches him fall, Then we just cut to the creature waking up on a beach, all wet. He's washed up on a shore somewhere. And he just kind of like gets up and just starts like walking off down the beach. And then we get end of part 1.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so obviously, as we mentioned, this is the gayest Frankenstein. Nothing wrong with that. Definitely, I feel that whenever the turn comes, it's going to be even sadder because we have had those tender, like, nice moments with the creature and Victor. And yeah, it's like, ooh. But, so far, I'm not sold. I think the Dan Curtis one's winning me over so far. We'll see.
There's the tragedy there where they just kept missing each other and never were connected was, that really worked for me. I felt like it was just a slight reinterpretation of the book. Like, it just took the basic idea of the book and just like turned the notch up just a little bit so that it made a little bit more sense and made it a little bit more painful. This is a whole different animal. Like, this romance and everything, like, I mean, I think it's a great story, but it's definitely a very different interpretation.
Yeah, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, and like you said, obviously part 2 is going to be much more heartbreaking because of everything we've experienced in part 1.
Absolutely. So let's see where that takes us next time. All right, so where can they find us, Anthony?
Yeah, you can find us on, Twitter and Instagram at The Frankencast. You can email us, thefrankencast@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Patreon.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/The Frankencast.
Don't feel obligated, but it does help us fund our evil experiments and, our eventual attempts to take over the world, or at least raise a few dead bodies.
Yeah, I think, a lot of cases when shows pitch you on the Patreon, they always say, like, it helps us keep the lights on. But for us, it's going to help us keep the science wheels spinning.
And the dead bodies coming to life.
Yeah, so we definitely would love to have you there. We've got 2 tiers. We're doing either 2 or 4 episodes, depending on how much you want to give. And it's been fun so far. I think our 4th episode just came out yesterday as we're recording, so it'll be a little bit from there. But we've talked about the Munsters. We've talked about Mary Shelley's novel in more detail. We've also just pitched some ideas for Frankenstein movies we'd like to see, and talked about what even counts as a Frankenstein movie.
Yeah, so good. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, but you can also find us on YouTube. But let's talk about our Patreons. We definitely have Hayden Orr.
And we've got Santos as well.
Santos.
And Santos just jumped up from the lower tier to the higher tier just today. So,
listen, Santos has always been higher tier to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I mean, he joined in and enjoyed what he was seeing and decided to get more from it even. So yep, we thank you very much for that. And hope to have both of you for a very long time, and hope to see many more of you join as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We got anything else for him?
I think that covers it until we come back with part 2 next week.
Wait, so we really are to be continued?
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.
I'm sorry for ruining